Listen this carefully. I'm not holding back. People think avoidants are scared of love. Nonsense. They're not afraid of love. They're afraid of being seen. Because the moment you get close, you stop dealing with their calm, cool, distant mask, and you start touching the part they've been running from their entire life. That's when the rage shows up. Not because you did something wrong, but because you accidentally hit the wound they pretend doesn't exist. If you want to understand avoidance, stop looking at their silence. Start looking at what they're hiding behind that silence. This is the psychology they never want you to know. The fear they call space, why avoidants get angry when you get close. Let's get to the raw, unfiltered truth. Part 1. The origin of the anger. Deep psychology breakdown. Avoidant anger looks strange from the outside. You get closer, they pull away. You try to talk, they shut down. You ask for clarity, they feel attacked. You show love, they feel trapped. That's not normal intimacy behavior. That's a defensive system built decades before you even existed. So let's break it down without mercy, without excuses, without romanticizing their bullshit. 1. Avoidant anger isn't about you. It's self-defense against their own history. Here's the harsh reality most people avoid. Avoidants didn't become avoidant by accident. They were trained. Not by choice, by environment. Most avoidants grew up in homes where showing emotions meant being ignored, being shamed, being punished, or being told they were too much. So they built a system. If I don't need anyone, no one can hurt me. But that system has a side effect. Any emotional closeness feels like a threat. Closeness equals exposure. Exposure equals risk. Risk equals panic. Panic equals anger. Anger is their armor, their shield, their survival mechanism. You're not triggering their anger. Their past is. 2. The moment you get close, they lose control, and control is their drug. Avoidants aren't addicted to solitude. They're addicted to control over their emotional environment. Why? Because as kids, they had zero control. Emotional chaos around them. Caregivers who were there physically but absent emotionally. Love that felt dangerous, confusing, inconsistent. So as adults, they cling to control like it's oxygen. And intimacy destroys control. When someone gets close, they can't hide. They can't pretend. They can't avoid. They can't control your perception. They can't keep emotional distance. And that loss of control hits them like a threat. And how do humans react to threats? Fight, flight. Avoidants choose fight first with anger, then flight with distance. 3. Their anger is a shield to stop you from touching the real wound. Avoidants aren't angry at you. They're angry at what you represent. Emotional intimacy, emotional expectations, emotional responsibility, emotional vulnerability. You're basically walking toward the emotional room they've locked for decades. And they guard that room like a wild animal guarding an old injury. You step too close, they snarl. Not because you're dangerous, but because vulnerability is. Anger is a distraction. It shifts the focus from "I'm scared" to "you're wrong," because it's easier to fight you than face themselves. 4. The avoidant emotional structure is built on one core belief. If someone gets close enough to love me, they'll get close enough to abandon me. That belief runs everything. Their silence, their distance, their inconsistency, their irritability, their random cold behavior, their sudden emotional shutdowns, and yes, their anger. They'd rather push you away than risk you walking away on your own terms. So, the moment you start to matter, they flip into self-protection mode. Close gives panic. Panic gives anger. Anger gives distance. Distance gives relief. It's a cycle. And it's predictable as hell once you understand it. 5. Why their anger feels so personal even when it's not. Avoidants don't know how to express fear. They don't know how to say, "I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with closeness. I really like you, and it scares me. I don't trust myself emotionally. I'm terrified you'll see the real me." Instead, they show irritation, cold tone, disconnect, sarcasm, deflection. "You're too emotional. I need space. You're pressuring me." Their anger is a mask covering the emotion they fear the most, vulnerability. 6. The anger appears exactly at the moment you think they should feel safe. This part shocks people the most. Avoidants get angry at the exact point when the relationship starts to deepen. That's not coincidence. That's their emotional alarm system going off. When you open up, show affection, try to talk deeper, express needs, ask for clarity, ask for commitment, ask for emotional presence, they feel cornered, not because you're intense, but because their emotional walls weren't built for two people. Their fortress is a one-person prison. 7. They don't realize their anger is sabotage, but it is. Avoidants think their anger protects them, but it destroys the exact thing they want: security, connection, loyalty, stability, trust. They want intimacy, but can't tolerate the process. They want love, but fear the exposure. They want closeness, but can't handle emotional weight, so they sabotage. And then they blame you for pushing too hard, just to avoid admitting, I pushed you away first. Part 2, the moments that trigger their anger, and they won't admit it. Avoidants don't burst into anger randomly. There are specific emotional pressure points that flip them from calm to cold in seconds. I'm breaking these points down with precision, no excuses, no sugarcoating. This is the brutal truth about when and why avoidants get angry, even when you're not doing anything wrong. 1. They get angry when you ask for basic emotional closeness. You want reassurance? A normal conversation? A little emotional clarity? To you, that's normal. To them, that feels like pressure. Why? Because emotional closeness exposes them. It forces them to deal with the feelings they've spent years avoiding. So your "can we talk?" translates in their brain as, "You're entering my emotional territory, get out." They don't get angry because the question is wrong. They get angry because emotional connection makes them lose control. This is why avoidants prefer dry conversations, surface-level topics, humor instead of depth, distraction instead of intimacy, silence instead of vulnerability. They think they're protecting themselves. They're actually pushing you away. 2. They get angry when you break through their mask. Avoidants survive using one strategy: act like you're unaffected. So the moment you see something real, something raw, something emotional, they panic. And panic in avoidance doesn't look like fear. It looks like irritation. Examples: you catch them being soft, gives they shut down. You notice their tone changed, gives they deny it. You see their hurt, gives they get sarcastic. You call out their emotional distance, gives they blame you. You're not triggering their anger. You're triggering their exposure. Avoidants hate being emotionally visible. It feels like a threat to their entire identity. 3. They get angry when they start caring more than they expected. This is the most ironic part. Avoidants get angry when they care. Why? Because caring comes with risk. Risk leads to vulnerability. Vulnerability leads to dependence. Dependence leads to potential abandonment. That chain reaction plays in their mind instantly. They don't want to admit, this person matters to me, so they flip into defensive mode. Colder than before, distant for no reason, irritated at small things, picking fights, acting detached, giving short replies, not because you did anything, but because they're losing control over their emotional distance. They're not angry at you. They're angry at themselves for caring. 4. They get angry when you're too good to leave. Avoidants handle rejection well. They know how to detach. They know how to walk away. What they can't handle is someone who understands them, gives them emotional safety, remains consistent, doesn't play games, doesn't chase, doesn't demand, and still cares. That scares the hell out of them. Why? Because now they have something to lose. Avoidants fear loss more than love. So when you become too important, they start sabotaging the connection before it reaches that point. Not because they don't like you, but because the relationship is becoming real, and real equals dangerous. 5. They get angry when they feel power shifting in your favor. Avoidants survive through emotional control. The moment you become confident, stable, or emotionally self-sufficient, they feel the power slipping. If they think you don't need them, you're getting stronger, you're emotionally stable, you're becoming secure. You're harder to manipulate emotionally. They panic again, and panic equals irritation. Why? Because now they are the vulnerable one. They're the one who could lose you. Their anger in this case is pure insecurity. They'll never admit it, but it's the truth. 6. They get angry when you stop chasing. Avoidants rely on your emotional effort. Your chasing equals their validation. Your consistency equals their ego safety. Your effort equals their emotional control. Your softness equals their comfort. So when you stop chasing, they don't suddenly feel free. They feel exposed. Because now, their distance isn't working. Their coldness isn't controlling you. Their silence isn't pulling you back. Their old strategies are failing. That loss of emotional power makes them snap. They'll get irritated, sarcastic, dismissive, or suddenly confused. This anger is not about losing you. It's about losing control. 7. They get angry when you ask for a minimal responsibility. Avoidants avoid emotional responsibility like it's poison. Ask them, where do we stand? Can you tell me how you feel? Can you give clarity? Can we fix this? And suddenly the calmest avoidant becomes defensive, irritated, cold, avoidant, dismissive. Why? Because now you're forcing them to step down from the emotional fence. You're forcing them to make a move, take a stand, or show a feeling. Avoidants don't like being pinned. They like floating in the gray zone. Your clarity threatens their safe distance, so they push back with anger, hoping you'll back off. 8. They get angry when you refuse to be controlled by their distance. Avoidants expect one thing from you: reactivity. They expect you chasing when they pull away, you apologizing when they shut down, you panic when they disappear, you feeling guilty when they distance, you begging for connection, you proving your loyalty, but when you don't react, you break their entire emotional system. Suddenly, they're the one thinking about you. They're the one feeling insecure. They're the one questioning themselves. Avoidants hate that shift. It exposes how dependent they actually are, silently, secretly, on your emotional effort. So they get angry, not because you hurt them, but because you broke their illusion of control. Part 3, what their anger really means and how you take back power. Avoidants aren't complicated. People just romanticize their distance and call it mystery. Strip the drama away and you'll see the truth clearly. Avoidants get angry because they're emotionally unskilled, not emotionally deep. They push away because they never learned how to stay. They shut down because they never learned how to regulate. You can't fix an avoidant, but you can understand them so clearly that their behavior stops affecting you. Let's break down the final, raw truth. 1. What their anger really is, the core reality they hide. Avoidant anger is fear wearing a mask. The fear isn't about losing you. It's about losing their identity. Avoidants build an identity around independence, emotional distance, self-reliance. I don't need anyone. I don't care. I'm fine on my own. When you get close, you threaten that identity. You force them to face their emotional wounds, their lack of communication skills, their fear of dependency, their fear of intimacy, their childhood trauma, their inability to stay present in emotions. They don't have the tools to handle this. So they reach for the one tool they do know: anger plus distance. It keeps the emotional spotlight off their wounds. The safest position for them is, you're the problem, not me. And trust me, they cling to that. Avoidants hate emotional responsibility. So when you hold your ground without chasing, the imbalance flips. Suddenly, they're the one dealing with insecurity, confusion, fear of losing you, pressure to communicate, pressure to show effort. Your steadiness forces them to grow, or to leave. Either way, you win. 3. How you handle their anger without being controlled. Let me be direct. You don't calm them. You don't fix them. You don't negotiate with emotional immaturity. You do one thing only. 2. You can't out-emotional and avoidant, you out-logic them. Trying to show more love? Doesn't work. Trying to reassure them? Worse. trying to chase or explain. They shut down. Avoidants don't respond to emotional warmth. They respond to emotional neutrality. You beat their system by refusing to play their game. Here's what that looks like. Don't react to their distance. Don't validate their silence with more effort. Don't explain yourself 10 times. Don't match their anger with panic. Don't beg for clarity. Your emotional stillness exposes their emotional chaos. You refuse to absorb what isn't yours. Here's how you respond to avoidant anger practically. When they pull away gives you stop chasing. Distance is their weapon. Indifference is yours. Let them sit in the silence they created. Most avoidants crumble when you don't chase, because their distance isn't real strength. It's a defense mechanism built on fear. When they get angry gives you stay calm. Avoidants use anger to shift blame. Your calmness blocks that tactic instantly. The moment you refuse to take the bait, their anger turns into self-reflection, eventually. You're not rewarding the behavior. You're exposing it. When they try to guilt trip you gives you don't fold. Avoidants use phrases like, "You're too much. You're too emotional. Why are you making this a big deal? You're pressuring me." This is just emotional avoidance disguised as criticism. Your job is simple. Do not internalize it. Do not defend yourself. Do not argue. Their opinion of your emotions has nothing to do with reality. When they demand space gives you give it without fear, not as punishment, as self-respect. Giving space without chasing resets the dynamic, removes pressure, proves you're not emotionally dependent, forces them to confront their own feelings, kills their emotional control. Avoidants expect you to panic. Not panicking destroys their script. The only way an avoidant changes, if they ever do, you can't change them by loving harder. You change the dynamic by breaking their pattern. Avoidants only grow when they realize their silence isn't controlling you. They feel the risk of losing you without you threatening anything. They understand distance won't be rewarded. They see you can walk away calmly. They recognize you as emotionally stable, not needy. Avoidants don't open up because you're emotional. They open up because you're consistent, grounded, and not dependent on them. Love doesn't pull an avoidant close. Stability does. Boundaries do. Non-reactivity does. 5. How you take back power permanently. Here's the part most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. If you're dealing with an avoidant, the power imbalance exists because you're playing their game. So you flip the game entirely. Rule 1, stop rewarding distance. They pull back gives you live your life. Zero chase. Rule 2, stop over-explaining. Be clear once. No repeat explanations. Rule 3, don't fill silence. Silence is their coping tool. Don't let it become your prison. Rule 4, match effort, not emotion. If they give 20%, you give 20%. Never overcompensate. Rule 5, be willing to walk away, calmly. This is the nuclear weapon. Not threats, not emotional breakdowns. Just the quiet confidence that you don't fear losing them. Avoidants respect one thing, people who won't fight for their attention. The moment you stop proving your worth, they start questioning theirs. That's how the dynamic flips. 6. The final truth, listen this carefully. Avoidants aren't monsters, but they're not victims either. Their anger doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you touched a part of them they never learned to face. You don't heal them by bending. You heal yourself by standing straight. And ironically, when you stop trying to fix an avoidant, that's when they finally face themselves. Because now, they can't blame you. They can't hide in distance. They can't use anger to control you. They can't avoid responsibility. Your silence becomes the mirror they can't escape.